We are back. How you
We're
doing,
back.
Pablo?
Good. And you?
Doing good, doing good. Today we're gonna talk about a mysterious call you got one day from the FBI.
Actually, I made the call.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. How on earth do you get in communication with the FBI?
Crazy.
I guess there's a couple ways to get.
You get in trouble because you're doing something bad, or you somehow get involved, like I did, with people that did something bad unbeknownst to me.
So how did that happen? It was early on in your career.
Oh, yeah. It was absolutely. And this is escrow fraud. Okay? Escrow fraud's been with us forever. Now it takes a new form, We just need to be careful on behalf of our clients,
Yeah.
you know. Make sure that we're dealing with reputable people, reputable escrows. Make sure that, that we're on top of the game.
So how did it happen? I mean, you called somebody and then.
Right. So what happened was I had opened up my insurance business. And this was back in 1986. Anyway, and so shortly thereafter, I talked to the owner of the building, and it was a small commercial building. And I said, listen, I found out that he was going to leave the state. And this is back in 1980, I believe 87. Okay? The late 87. Anyway, so I found out that his first name was Tony. And I found out that Tony was leaving the state. Okay? And I said, hey, what are you going to do with the building? It was a small building, a commercial building. And he said, I'm not quite sure. And I said, well, if you want to sell it, I'd be interested in buying it because I opened up my business here. I don't have a lot of money, Tony. And he said, yeah, I'd be interested in talking to you. So sure enough, I think like 3 months went by or something like that. And then he came over and he says, yeah, I'm going to buy it. And I didn't have enough money to qualify for a commercial loan. So I said, would you, we figured out he would carry paper for a little bit of time. And then it would allow me to stabilize in business and then potentially refinance it and give him the bulk of his money. But, we ended up doing the deal. We opened up escrow and he carried paper and super nice guy. And he, gave me a chance, really, because I was new in business and he knew it. When we put the lease together, he knew that I was as green as they come. But he was a good man. He's a good guy. And he knew that, as much as possible, I'm keeping my word everywhere, paying people. Anyway, and so we closed escrow. It was my first commercial deal. That's how I got introduced to commercial. That's probably why, commercial is not everybody says it's a different monster, and it is, but I got introduced to it my first deal. I think I already had my home, my primary home. But anyway, so I get the escrow documents and I see a discrepancy on the documents. Escrow had overcharged me to the tune of $1,800, $1,600. And I said, I got to call escrow because this is a mistake. That way they can send me a check. And so I dialed the phone number. I called
Of the escrow company.
And instead of answering with the escrow name, it was a weird answer. It was like, it wasn't the escrow name, and it was a man, very dry. And he said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, let me talk to, and I said the name of the escrow officer. And he said, she's not here right now. What is the purpose of your call, sir? And I go, oh, yeah, we just closed an escrow, and I want to talk to her, please, because I see a discrepancy. What sort of discrepancy? And, he sounded rough. No, I mean, he was a little bit abrasive. And I said, well, I'd like to speak to her about that. And he goes, well, you can tell me. And I said, no, I don't want to tell you. At that point, I was a little, I want to speak with her. And then he said again, I just told you she's not here. So we want to know what discrepancy you're talking about. And then he says, and I said, no, you know what? I'm going to call back. And it goes, sir, don't hang up. I don't want you to hang up. And I go, I'm going to. And he says, no, don't do it because I have your phone number here logged in. I know where you are. And we're conducting a criminal investigation. You've dialed into an active FBI investigation. Okay? And I go, what? And I thought the guy was lying. I thought I double-checked the number, and I had dialed it correctly. Anyway, and so he says, we want you to come on in and speak to us about what happened with your paperwork, this and that and whatever. Okay, that's how I got introduced to this. What had happened is that particular escrow had done fraud in the sense that in a short amount of span of time, they had quite a few escrows open, and there were quite a few deposits into their trust account. And basically what they did is closed the trust account, took the money, transferred the money, and closed the trust account and took off.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, it would have devastated me if they had done that the week before, because I had not closed escrow. And I had put every penny I had saved as a down payment to give to Tony to entice him to carry the note, because he was concerned I was new in business, this and that, and so forth. So every penny I had thrown into that.
And so, how did you get involved with this escrow? Was it through the seller?
I don't remember, Mike.
No.
I don't remember.
It wasn't an escrow company that you knew or had a relationship or anything like that?
No, I was new in business. I was learning a lot of stuff. I was scared to buy the building. It was scary. I didn't know really what I was doing. All I knew is that he was leaving. And in my mind, I thought, if somebody else gets the building, potentially my rent can go up. And I was struggling to pay the rent, the light, the gas, I mean, everything. You know, I started doing good from the beginning, but it was, there was very little left over. We had what was called a draw. And, I broke my draw in the first 90 days, but not by much. And so, there was very little left over. I mean, I remember one time when I signed the lease with him, I don't think I had $132 in the bank. I think that was it. I think that's the figure, 132. Either that or $72 in the bank after I was done with first month, last month, furniture, this, that. There was not much left.
Yeah.
And so, but that was shocking to me that people would do that. And in the process of closing that escrow, I developed an acquaintance relationship with the escrow officer. It just goes to show you, you said the other day, you were talking about, if you can elaborate a little bit on, people send you emails now, right? Faking that it's from the escrow so that you can make deposits into, right?
You're talking about emails like during an
open escrow when you're going to close it.
Yeah. Well, no, we had heard about some escrow fraud that goes on, and basically people, when they see that they're hacking into your email, right? And when they see that you're in a purchase of let's say a house, they keep an eye of when you should be sending that wire transfer in, and the big wire transfer, and so they send a fake email. That's why it's so important to work with a good escrow and to verify and all, the account numbers and all that. Because we heard about a gentleman that one of his clients, someone hacked into their email and they sent, I don't remember the number, if it was,
180,000.
was it 180,000?
Woof.
And they
Up in
sent that
smoke.
wire transfer, and who knows who they sent it to, and it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never got. And see,
Jeez.
that is a devastating blow to anyone,
Yeah.
unless you're,
Oh, of
rolling
course.
I mean,
No. I mean,
it would have. Oh,
and there's no recovering that, as far as I'm aware. Once you send that wire, you're done.
yeah, because from what I understand, immediately those funds get transferred and transferred and transferred, and now you got to chase. Oof. But
Yeah.
not. I don't want to say escrow fraud, but fraud has been around forever.
Oh, yeah.
There are many ways to, unfortunately, defraud people,
Sure.
and
Sure.
so
I mean, being in the insurance industry, we've seen a lot of insurance fraud. Where people try to put in a claim of something that damage to, let's say, something before it was insured. So there was before they insured the vehicle, they damaged it, but they wanted to put it, you know, the policy active before it was damaged. Things like that.
yeah,
That happens all the time.
you just need to be careful. You know, you treat people with respect and dignity, but you definitely have to protect your reputation. We did a video on that, on
Yeah.
reputation, the 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
I never saw these people again. I never heard from them again.
They just
And-
closed up shop.
Yeah, and I was insignificant compared to the amount of money that was taken.
Did you have to go in, or was it just a phone call?
It was a
with
phone
the
call.
FBI?
It was a phone call, and then it was followed up by other phone calls. The investigation was big, and they saw that. I think after I ended up really following through the math on everything, I think the discrepancy was $1,500 or $1,480, something like that, minimal. I never got it, of course, but there were people that lost a lot of money, $500,000, 600,000. I didn't have to go in, but there were additional phone calls, and I made sure I took them, because one of the things that this guy wasn't nice, this FBI agent, he wasn't a nice guy, or maybe it was a bad day for him, whatever.
Yeah.
But he told me, I can, when I refused to give any additional information, then he scared me into giving him a little bit more information after I asked a couple questions and I realized, hey, this is sounding pretty serious.
Yeah.
Because he had said, I can potentially go and arrest you. If you don't give me the information that I am requesting from you, then you are impeding the investigation. So you're obstructing it. I can I go to where you are right now, and he gave me my address. He gave me where I was. And I said to myself, whoa. So I told him, okay. Look, I just closed an escrow 3 days ago. All I'm calling is because there's a discrepancy. They owe me $1,400. And he says, okay, tell me about it. And then I told him he was very interested in the process. And he asked me also how I met them. And right now, I can't remember how.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that Tony brought him because he was,
The seller.
yeah, the seller, because he had some other properties. And he had gone through several escrows, So I have a feeling that he referred them to us. So it wasn't anybody that I knew.
Crazy. Recently you were telling me about another investigation that you got somehow pulled into about it was something that happened a long time ago where you had a nightclub insured, and the gentleman that owned the nightclub, you had the insurance for the nightclub, and someone was killed there.
Someone was shot and killed in the parking lot. And I had the nightclub insured. And so
they
I
do
got
an
another call.
investigation and-
I'll tell you, these calls get you a little feverish, a little nervous.
Jeez.
I had the nightclub insured, and the owner was a super cool guy, and we got along just great. And I insured several other large properties for him throughout the years. But the nightclub was insured, and there was an argument that began inside, and they took the argument to the parking lot. As I recall, this is a long time ago too. And sure enough, somebody got shot and killed.
Wow.
Woo! And that was also there. I had to show up, and there I was questioned quite a bit. You know, they knew I was only the insurance agent,
Yeah.
but they were trying to put all the pieces together. And they, you know, the thing is, they ask you 1,000 questions, they don't give you any info. So, you know, there was one time when I said, well, what has that got to do with anything? And the gentleman said, this guy was nicer than the other guy. He said, you don't need to be concerned about, you know, how we're going to piece this puzzle together. And he said, look, it's a big puzzle. There are a lot of pieces, and we're just trying to do the groundwork. So anything that you can tell us is going to help us. And so, you know, I was an open book because I was already, you know, I mean, it's bad enough that somebody gets hurt, but let alone killed.
Yeah.
And so, but, you know, it was only like I was called in a couple times.
That wasn't as the other one you were more involved in because you actually had a file in the escrow.
I had a file in the escrow.
The insurance.
They had everything on me, and so, you know, so in both those instances, I became an open book.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to know, let me know. I've got nothing to hide.
Sure.
You know, nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, actually, I was a victim. In the first one, they scammed me, you know, or maybe it was a genuine mistake.
Yeah.
But they certainly took a lot of money from a lot of people from their trust account and left everything open. No transfers of title, nothing. I mean, it would, for me, it would have been devastating. So I'm sure it is devastating for anyone that this happens to. My heart goes out to them.
But the thing is that I don't know that you can ever get rid of fraud. I mean, like entirely. Those things are always going to happen. You can try and regulate it, but I was listening to a interview of a guy, a con man. You know, he did time in prison and everything, and he comes out and he says how he did it, and it was really interesting, because what he was doing was he was getting other people's identities.
Ooh.
Yeah, wow. And then he began to formulate this plan where he bought several properties in a very close area, and he would make the comps because the prices of those properties he would overpay, and so he would artificially inflate the area, and then he'd go to a bank and then pull out a loan, and then he'd disappear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it was super
That's
interesting.
complex.
Super complex. And very, very complicated. But that stuff, you know, some people, it's like they're so smart, you know, that they're able to figure this whole plan out, but they choose a certain path. And I remember we've heard of different people, and I heard of a gentleman where it just in conversation, and you don't know if it's true or not or whatever, but in conversation it was, oh yeah, they're known for doing arson or having done arson, you know, intentionally burning some of their properties to have them rebuilt by the insurance.
Wow.
You know?
Well, you know, I've seen a couple of documentaries how people get on the phone and they film them, and they show how they can coax or manipulate the person at the other end of the phone to give them information that's private to customers.
Yeah.
So you just said something really important. You don't know that we can ever get rid of fraud completely. And you're probably very right on that. I agree. But you can minimize it by training your people. For example, in our agencies, we do not provide information to any third party. I don't care who's calling.
Mm-hmm.
And we go through training on that. For example, one of the oldest tricks in the book was saying, hey, I'm calling from the law office of H&M and D and S, whatever, regarding this account. And I remember when I got started, oh, they're calling from this law office.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how can I help you with? Well, later on I found out, that's something that they do. It's a trick.
Yeah.
So, you learn. And so I started training my staff and saying, look, I don't care if they're calling from heaven. Okay? I don't care if they're calling from heaven.
Mm-hmm.
We do not provide any information whatsoever to people that are not the primary insured.
Yeah, but okay, so you can do those measures, but I'm talking about, so that's to prevent it from like at an agency or but I'm talking about especially, unfortunately, the elderly.
Oh, well, they're targeted.
They're targeted, and you won't ever get rid of that. People are gonna unfortunately do that. I remember in the securities industry, they had extreme measures to protect. You even needed like different documents signed if they were over 65 and or over 70. It's like you're acknowledging, and maybe they needed a witness or something like that. You're acknowledging because of their age, they needed to be sound and everything. But unfortunately, you call somebody and they give you information over the phone, because they're older and maybe not thinking all that right. And
anybody can get cut. I remember like 5-6 years ago, I got a call from a number.
Yeah.
And they were saying, hey, you're going to have your electricity disconnected at such and such place. And I'm going, you're kidding me. They got me.
Yeah.
They got me.
They make it sound legit.
Even with all the stuff that I've been exposed to throughout my life. Hey, you're going to have the electricity turned off on such and such. I go, you're kidding me. Oh, my God. Well, how much is owed? They got me.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you called the company directly.
And they say, no, we would never do that. And by the way, give us the address. And, well, no, you're not. Yeah. They're not late on that, And
Yeah, and now with texting, I mean, it was very common with emails and the phishing or phishing, where they find ways if you click this, if you that, but also with texting. If you click or open a certain text or a link or something, it happened to Bezos where they hacked into his. Bezos knew somebody, so he knew this person, and somehow through this person's number, these people were able to send a text to, I believe it was Jeff Bezos, and hacked his phone. Yeah, and then at that point, they have access to everything. Oof. So,
also, it can happen even when, for example, there is another side of the coin where this gentleman, and we won't mention any names or banks or nothing, but he was taking care of his dad, elderly, and then he went to the bank and tried to do a couple of things, but his dad, it's losing it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so the banker thought that this gentleman was doing something incorrectly.
Taking advantage, yeah.
When in reality, he was just trying to cut a couple steps, and because we know these people, right? So they flagged the account in that major bank saying, hey, this guy is trying to take advantage of this. I don't know how they do it, potentially.
Yeah.
They don't have proof that they're doing anything, but, it didn't sound right.
Right.
And he was trying to skip some steps just to help his dad, though. His intent was to help his dad. He got flagged on it, and this is a major brand bank, so he went to another branch of the same bank, and that popped up, and he couldn't do anything, and he got all upset. He's got a short fuse, so he got upset with every banker. They documented that he was upset. He had to retrace everything.
Yeah.
He had to go to a lawyer, make sure that he had documents.
It's better those steps than
someone taking advantage. Absolutely. Well, one thing I'll tell you is that you have to be very careful because In our insurance business, you insure a young couple, and everything is good. 10 years go by, and something happens, and they end up starting separation procedures to get a divorce. Okay? Now we got a major problem because they were, the insureds. So we're used to whether the wife calls or the husband calls. Okay? We make changes to the policy. But the minute we find out that there's a divorce in place, now it becomes very, very tricky. Because I remember one time a call came to me where the wife said, I want to take out two cars. And we knew that they were going through a divorce. There were 5 cars on the policy, as I remember. But she wanted to take off the cars that the husband was driving. And I said, well, I need it in writing. And she said, no, I don't need to send you nothing. Take them off. And I said, no, I can't. And she got very upset. She called me all kinds of stuff. And I told I told her, I need it in writing from you. Okay? And then I'm not even going to do it. Once I get it in writing from you, I'm going to contact your husband, because I know that you guys are going through a divorce, and I know that you have your own attorneys, and I know that he has his own attorneys. So you know what? If your husband called to take off these other 3 cars, I would do the same thing with him. I wouldn't just take off the cars. And there's been instances where I have heard horror stories where vehicles are taken off, nobody's told about it. Yeah. There's a huge accident or a good-sized accident, and they were taken off the policy. The insurance company has no obligation to pay for damages because they haven't been receiving the premiums.
Yeah, no, there's stuff like that goes on, and you have to protect both sides, and and then there's the fraud, and it's it can get complicated.
Oh,
it reminds me
very complicated.
Different story, but
go ahead.
There was a customer that we had that was insuring his girlfriend on the same policy as his wife.
Oh yeah.
And that created a whole issue, right? Because the wife, because there's no law or anything against him adding another driver to a policy, but it ends up being a girlfriend, and it ended up being a mess.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because the wife calls in, finds out, who's this other person? Oh my gosh. It's
I remember that one.
Yeah.
He came in. He wanted to beat the living daylights out of me. But, I mean, can you imagine? You're adding your girlfriend to your car policy so you can save money, because if you write a policy for the girlfriend, you lose multiple car discount.
So he was not only... he was also being cheap about it.
So
the lesson is, don't have a girlfriend or get a separate policy. No, I'm kidding.
The lesson is, don't have a girlfriend.
Don't have a girlfriend.
Just be faithful to your wife. But yeah, I mean, I remember he was shaking. He wanted to punch me. Yeah. I remember taking a step back because I thought, and he was a very powerful guy. So if he hit me, if I let him hit me, you're
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. One hit.
You want? Yeah. He was a powerful man. Those things happen.
Yeah.
You get pulled. If you're not careful, look, your integrity must stand above all. Your main course of action is to take care of your insured and their family. Okay?
Your customer in general. You just gotta always look out for the customer.
Right. But you get pulled into difficult situations as a salesman. I know I have been.
Sure.
And then it takes a great deal of character to walk out of it.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was doing life insurance, and the wife steps out, and the gentleman said, hey, I'm going to have to talk to you on another day because I want to insure. Again, my girlfriend on another policy.
Jeez.
And then the wife comes in, you know? And so my demeanor was completely different, to the point that she had offered me coffee, and she thought it was because the coffee was bad. She goes, "You didn't like your coffee? What's going on?"
No.
You know, because my demeanor was completely different. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And you know, you have to develop thick skin. And then, you know, we're not here to judge people either.
No,
So
just,
it's a control. It's
right.
a, you know, I mean,
Yeah, but they're just different situations.
different
that we've
situations that
come
you
across.
get pulled into. You know, she
Definitely.
steps away for a second, and he says, "Hey, I want to do another policy for my
Right,
girlfriend."
Right.
Yeah, and
What do you do?
she comes back in, and I'm here in like shock. You know, like,
Yeah.
so you know, you cannot allow yourself in the process of performing your business. And these are just a couple of stories you would not believe, okay, in 37 years. But I'm not the only one. You know, I talk to colleagues,
Yeah.
attorneys. You know, when you're dealing with people, there's a mirage of things that you see, all
Oh, yeah.
kinds of things, you know, that happen. What you need to keep in mind, I think, is don't be judgmental, but don't allow yourself to be pulled into situations that are going to create issues.
Yeah.
It's tough. You have to
It
draw
is.
the line.
Yeah. But then once you draw the line, those people are gonna probably either not come back to you. They'll look for somebody else who's willing to bend the line, or, you know.
Absolutely.
And so you start setting a reputation.
Correct.
Hey, I'm gonna do things the right way, and build on that.
That's the best policy, because I'll tell you what, if you cross the line, okay, you're going to get more clients that are going to ask you to do those things and more, because the word's going to get out on the street.
Yeah.
If you nip it in the rear end, then your reputation precedes you, so they're going to know, don't go there.
Yeah.
They do things by the book.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's the business that you're gonna attract.
Right. And it's happened to my older son. It's happened to you. It's happened to all of us that have worked in the family business.
Anyone in sales.
Well, where we've heard this phrase. Well, wait a minute. How come you won't do it? How come you're not going to do this? And you say, well, because I can't. It's not proper. Well, the guy down the street is willing to do it. And the guy down the street works for the same company you're working, so technically the rules should be the same. And the answer is, with all due respect, I can't do this, but if you want something like this done, then maybe you have to go down the street to the guy that's willing to do something like this for you.
You're going to lose business.
Right. And then you tell the customer, this is not the right way to do this.
Yeah.
You need to realize that this is not correct. This is wrong. So
yeah, like who was it the other day? Where was it? Was I listening to something, or we were talking to a gentleman? Right now it slips my mind, but basically this person said, oh, the reason I do this is because I need to be able to sleep at night. That's why I do things this way, because if not, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. But that's somebody who has a conscience.
that conversation happened last week when we drove by this building that was selling forever, I think, and I called the guy to say hello, and the previous agent had done something wrong. He was complaining.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes no matter how hard of a job you do, people will complain.
Yeah.
As long as you know you're doing the right thing.
And that's the thing. If you feel you're doing the right thing, then you can sleep at night.
Right.
But that's for somebody that has a conscience, because there are people that can sleep fine at night, maybe, and they're not doing things the right way. But you just gotta, I think, be true to what feels right to you, and try and do the best for other people, and stay away from people that are going to ask for certain favors that maybe, are going to pull you into an issue.
Right. So, when you do your training, you tell your staff, look, we're by the book. If, especially the junior people, if we have an office manager, we have people who have been there for a long time. Fortunately, very seasoned staff, but they can smell it. They can smell, coming in, but you got to stay on your game. You got to have this training every so often to remind everybody, because you know what, the people that are out there trying to figure out ways in which to do things, let's just say incorrectly, they're very astute. They're not dumb. They're very bright. They are really smart people. And so they can figure out ways that will either shock, a guy like me that's been in business for a long time, I still from time to time say, wow, that's amazing. That's extremely creative.
Yeah.
So you gotta stay on top of your game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stay away from those people if you can.
There's a lot of stories there.
Cool. We'll wrap it up there.
All right. Thank you.